Hello friends, today I am here to share with you my thoughts on the Strymon Iridium. It's been around for a few years. I remember people being very hyped about it when it came out. I only got a hold of one, last year used on Craigslist or Facebook Market or somewhere. I haven't really used it that much because I've got the Fender Tone Master that I really love, and then I've got a Kemper for doing all kinds of profiling, modeling, that kind of things. But for, a serviceable amp for $400, it was worth checking out. So anyway, I'm going to play through it. I can, explain a little bit, but there's plenty of videos, tutorials. Basically, I'm going to give you, my thoughts on it, which are not overwhelmingly positive, but I think there are, it serves its purpose in the market. So anyway, I'm going to get started just so you can hear for comparison. This is a Fender Ultra Strat, stock, everything. That's the direct sound into my computer, which it is running through the Iridium on bypass. So we'll turn it on. I'm also running through my pedal board, which I'll call that out when I use something. So the first thing on here is what we call the amp is round and the cab is A, and I believe this is supposed to be a Fender Deluxe. It's Fendery. I don't know. It's a Fender Deluxe of some kind. There's the problem. Let me switch to headphones. I forgot that I had my monitor on. Okay, this should sound a lot better now, because you won't be getting the amp sound coming through the microphone. So here you go. Okay, so I think we can all agree that sounds quite a bit better than, just without the Iridium at all, which just as a reminder. That's if you go straight into a soundboard, which honestly, no offense to anything here, but that sounds better than I expected it to, just straight out of the guitar into the audio interface. But here's the Fender sound. Now, the main thing that jumps out at me here with the Fender sound, that's a pretty faithful Fender sound. What I think it's not doing well is the reverb. I think that, for people like me who play Fender amps, I'm going to be the most picky about the way the Fender sounds. I'm used to a very lush spring reverb, and that room reverb just does not do it for me. So if you roll it all the way off, you could, try to use, a reverb pedal onto the front end of it, which there is no effects loop on this. So if I were ever driving, not that many people are going to use a Fender amp for its natural breaking, but if I put a reverb or delay into the front end of that, it doesn't sound awesome. To each their own, but for the most part, people want those reverb modulation, delay type things into the back end or through the effects loop. Okay, so gonna not knock over the Iridium. So you can see the room, it gets bigger, but maybe I'm just, really particular, but that just does not do it for me. Now, if we want to get more Fendery, we can kind of scoop those mids out of there. It's got a 3-band EQ. My custom Deluxe, does not have a mid. That doesn't mean there's no mid in it. There's just no mid control in it. and I'm looking, yeah, like my Mesa does. You know, I'm pretty sure a Vox does, and Marshall definitely does. I have to pull that back to a human level reverb. Now that is a the Duelist. That's the heavy hand sound of the Duelist overdrive pedal. I think that's a usable sound. I mean, this right here. And I think, you know, Strymon people, I'm going to go Strymon into Strymon here. This is the Cloudburst. It's very dry. My daughter was playing with the knobs, and there we go. However, that still sounds just like punchy and cheap to me. Yeah, I can hear that it's trying to sound like a Fender. To me, this sounds like certainly not a Fender Deluxe, but like one of those like cheap Fender solid state practice amps from the 90s. So anyway, again, like I said, I'm going to be pickiest about the Fender. And I guess the other thing we can do is change the cab. So let's go to cab B, which is, you know, presumably, I know you can Google all this, so, you know, by all means, go look it up. I assume the cab that comes with the Celestion, or the Chime, which is the Vox, would be like the Celestion Greenback 112. I actually think that sounds better. Maybe a little like flubby in the mid range. I can't. And then I assume the Marshall punch cab, which is cab C, there is, you know, probably more in the like 412, maybe cream back. So anyway, yeah, the Fender, I would give it a. So this is the context here. I would give that in the modern world a D plus or a C minus for imitating a Fender, and I say that because I think you can get a better Fender sound even in this size from like the TC Electronic Ampworks, which I think is $150 and sounds a lot better than this for a Fender. However, for $150, you're only getting that one amp. But I think the amp model on that one sounds better. The reverb on that one sounds better than what you get on here with the Room. So anyway, that is what it is. So we'll check out the Vox sound now, which is this. Again, okay, so I think the Vox sound is better than the Fender sound. I think that's a more accurate depiction of a Vox. That almost sounds like it's got some kind of chorus effect on it. That could just be. I have a little inner ear thing right now from a sinus infection, so maybe I'm just in a bad mood criticizing all this. But I think that's actually a pretty decent. My biggest complaint again is that reverb. It sounds so digital, and there's like just enough of a delay to it that it sounds unnatural. It doesn't work for me. I'm going to roll it back a little bit. But playing... For me, playing a clean Fender or Vox without reverb is just, unheard of. So, I like it bathed in reverb for my clean sounds, which was why I think this kind of does the drive sounds better. But where I've seen people use this, I've watched YouTube demos of this pedal, and like the Strymon junkies that I know are like the churchy guitarists, like the worship guitarists who are all into like dotted quarter note delays, and their boards are glowing with all kinds of $3,000 worth of pedals, and they like this, I guess, is just like a clean interface, and they probably take it dry without the reverb because they probably have a separate reverb pedal. So if I were using this, though, I would want it on my mini pedal board for smaller rigs, and I would have it right at the end of the chain so I can go right into the stake or the house or whatever, just rely on my monitor mix to hear myself. And I would want like a tuner, an overdrive, and a delay, maybe a tremolo pedal in front of this, and that's it. That would be my minimalist setup. And I think it would be really cool to have a pedal, an amp this size that fits onto the pedal board and does everything else. I'm just not sure this is the one for me. I do like that it takes a 9-volt adapter, so it can even daisy chain with your other stuff. I am going to check this Vox out with other cabs, and then I will check out the gain on it, because a few people have made themselves famous with gainy Voxes. I have updated the software on this, but I have not swapped out the cabs. And I know that's one of the big things you can do is these IR cabs you can swap in and out. There's not much else that you can do. You can also program your favorite setting so that you could set the amp up clean and tap over to your favorite for a built-in drive sound, perhaps even on a different amp. That would be kind of cool. I think I'd probably more use it like, at least when I was in high school, this is early 2000s, and most rock music had clean guitar in the verse, distorted in the chorus, and it was really nice to be able to channel switch. You could do that with this pedal, and it would be like a rig in one. On both amps so far, I prefer that cab seat, which is interesting. Okay, so we'll go 75% of the Okay, that is pretty nice. And I will add that I am playing my Ultra Strat today because it has noiseless pickups, and I've got, camera on, lights everywhere, a cheap 9-volt power supply. I was like, I want to hear this amp and this pedal as clearly as I can. So I believe that noise you're hearing, that little bit of hiss, is just, a driven amp. Which, compared to a driven amp in the room, is really not that bad. I do think that's a lovely sound. That's really nice. The other thing that I'll just throw out there is you want to test how it responds like an amp. So if you wanted to, could you leave that gate drive all the way up and just just roll off your volume knob. So I couldn't get it all the way clean, but if I go to that 3 o'clock position, and then I roll back, I think that's quite lovely. So I'm not a big Vox player, so again, I'm probably not going to be as picky about the Vox as I would be about a Fender sound. That's pretty nice, but I don't use a Vox for anything. So now we'll go to the Marshall-y sound. I don't remember which Marshall this is modeled after. I can put it on the screen in my editing and bail myself out later. But I do love a Marshall clean, although I never play a clean Marshall. When I'm using a Marshall, it's kind of in that Hendrix crunchy, so like the... So, no one really expects a reverb from a Marshall. That reverb just does not work for me. Instead of swapping out the IRs, if I could plug in to the computer and update the onboard reverb to a spring reverb or just something a little more natural sounding, that would, I think, push this product over the edge for me and say, like, yeah, I could work with that. Or if it had an effects loop and I could just ignore this bad reverb altogether. So I gotta say, that is a pretty nondescript sound. So let's try it in each cab. Now this is the Marshall amp through the Fender E cab. It's a pretty dark cab. The amp does not seem to like it. That Vox cab is a little thin, and we'll go back to the Marshall cab. That's pretty good. Now, let's try it, 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock again. With the volume knob. I think that is right where I want my Marshall clean sound to be. And that's about as much gain as I'd ever use. So that right there is an incredibly usable Marshall sound. I've got my volume knob between 5 and 6. We got to push it all the way. And then to the bridge pickup. That's pretty good. No drive pedals or anything on. If I tried to... Wrong pedal. I just put a little steel string singer on it, and it didn't do much. It tightened it up a little bit, I guess. But here's the trick. I'm like, that's a totally giggable sound right there. Could maybe even record with it. But if I want to add a delay into my solo, it would sound like this with the delay going into the drum. doesn't work for me. That being said, we got the Marshall out, so let's try a few different Marshall-y type settings. We'll go for what is called the Brown sound, where we just turn all the knobs. And then if we go, what we'll call, high school mic, it's in the metal. Not metal on a Strat, but really scoop that EQ and go. Okay, so in a nutshell, for I think they're $400, you can get them used for like, I don't know, $250-ish. That's really not bad, and I'll show you the controls up top here to end. And there we go. Just killed that. Oh, okay. I'll get them in frame here, and you can see it's got now. Interestingly, it will do mono or stereo output, which I don't, without an effects loop, I don't really know why you'd want to go stereo out. And then it has the expression or MIDI pedal there. I'm not sure what the MIDI functions could be. The expression's interesting. And then it's got, an outdated USB port there. I think it's like a USB mini. It's fine. It's fine. That's all there is to say about it. If they keep making these, which I think they still do, I would hope it's a USB-C now, or at least, on the next version that it would be. Anyway, the Fender, I would give it like a D+, C-. Vox is a solid C. The Marshall sound, I would say, is a solid B in terms of a cab sim. And when you add all of those up, and it's like, okay, well, you could get the AmpWorks from TC Electronic, and that's a lot cheaper than like the Universal Audio ones that are like amp in a box type things. TC Electronic is the cheapest decent amp in a box I know of. That's $150 a piece for a Fender, a Vox, and a Marshall. So $450 versus $400, and it's three things instead of one. It comes down to personal preference. I think the versatility on this one is its selling point, although it's perhaps a tad overrated, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that's a usable Fender sound for someone that is really a Fender player. However, if I were like a hard rock metal player and I just needed like a clean to run a chorus over or something like that, yeah, that Fender would probably work. And then you switch to the higher gain sound, and I think the high gain sound is really nice on it. And like I said, you can play with the IR and cab sims and all that stuff. I've never really had any interest in doing that because I just couldn't find a sound out of this that I liked. So anyway, I picked it up used. I will be selling it again used, and in 2024, 2025, whenever this video releases, I think there are a lot better amp options for $400 that are all portable, at home giggable, and workable for live settings. However, I think Strymon deserves some credit for being kind of pioneers in this front, for making it fit on the pedal board and do some decent sounds, and have the software connection so they can update going forward. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this pedal. If I'm totally misusing this, I'm sure some Strymon connoisseur will let me know. I love Strymon, by the way. I've got the Sunset Overdrive, I've got the Cloudburst, and I've got one other tape delay pedal of theirs. Love Strymon stuff. The Iridium just is not it for me. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this helped you, assess your amp options. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.